Greetings out there in YouTube land, this is Morris, man. And as always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel. Today, I'm going to do a video, and at this present time as I'm shooting the video, I don't know what to call it, but it most likely would be named technology. Old technology versus current technology regarding music. In my heyday of writing songs, one of my central pieces as far as the puzzle or the thing or the part that helped me, create my songs was my recorder. And at the time I was using the Tascam 688. And even in an interview that Babyface gave during that era, he said that's what he used, to put down his ideas before he take it to the studio. And I had that thing for like 20 something years. And after a while, the motor went out, for the cassette to drive the cassette, even though the power still worked and the mixer worked. So I put it in, storage, and it sat there for like 8-9 years. And about 2 weeks ago, I decided just to get rid of it. And it's like, as soon as you get rid of something that you're holding on to that you think you might not need, you need it. So after I tossed it, I realized that after a week later, I probably should have kept it and just got the motor repaired, the motor part repaired. But, like an idiot, I get rid of it. So I bought another mixer. And the reason why I'm telling this story is because I got tapped, recently as far as someone said, we want you to kind of, write some more songs because we want that old school feel. We don't want that new stuff where people just playing with one hand and sampling and stealing people's stuff. And no disrespect to the people that do that. So I said, okay. So I went in and started to invest in some music equipment so I could start writing again. Because again, I just been playing on other people's stuff and doing arrangements and things of that nature. But as far as just composing, it's been a while since I've done that because styles changed. And I can easily write on the styles of today, but I just really don't want to. It's not something I want to do. I like to have some sense of originality as far as I'm jumping on the bandwagon with everybody else and using the same sound patches and the same structure of songs and stuff like that. So I decided, to go in and invest in some equipment to kind of get the creative juices flowing. And what I realized real quickly, that the stuff that is used today has no, can't even compare to the stuff that was used back in the day, because to this day, I still use the same keyboard I've been using since the 80s, late 80s. Matter of fact, I got a picture of my daughter. She a baby playing on my piano. She's in college now. I got the same keyboard, the exact same one, the original one. And it's the Sonic EPS. And the reason why I still have that unit because it gets the job done. It's not obsolete. I can sample in some new sounds if I need to. The sequencing on that board is just unbelievable. It's user-friendly. Everything makes sense and it has logic to it. The stuff now that you buy has no logic, makes no sense. And they banking on you calling and paying a tech guy and sit on the phone with him for an hour and tell him, oh, I can't get this to do what I want it to do. And he walks you through it, So I'm going to show you what I just recently purchased and kind of give you my evaluation of it. Because again, like an idiot, I tossed my Tascam 688 when I could have just easily got it repaired. So I went out and bought something, a digital. And this is the Roland VS1680. It is a 24-bit digital 16-track, 16-input recorder. Now the problem that I have with this is, right out of the gate, first thing I have an issue with is the stuff in the back. There's just not enough of these outs. It's just like 6 of them. And when I usually do my setup, I want my drums to be stereo, so that's 2 tracks. I want my bass to be stereo, that's 2 tracks. I want my piano to be stereo, that's 6 tracks. And some other things can be mono. They don't have to be stereo. So right out of the gate, I don't have enough of these. So that's an issue, because with my 688, I think I had like probably about 15 of these or even more. And here I just got like 6. So that's right out of the gate, that's an issue with me. Here's the other issue. And I'm not picking on this particular unit because most of them are like this now. They're digital. Back in the day, all of my sliders here and along here, I would have my EQ buttons, my pan buttons. Physically, there is none of these buttons. Now you got to go inside the menu and bring them up. That takes too much of your time trying to do all that stuff when you used to have it just physically there to turn knobs. Now you have to go into a screen and select it and do all that stuff. It's extremely time consuming. And I understand that they're trying to, make something that's more economical for them, not for you. If they can save on putting physical buttons on the machine, they'll do that. But it's just unfortunate that the time that you spend wasting with this, you can go ahead and just physically with the old ones, just turn them, instead of going to the menu and selecting it and then turning it. So, as far as this, there's some people that, they want to spend a lot of time teching it. I'm like, I'm a musician. I don't want to spend too much of my time teching it. I'm not the studio engineer. I'm the musician. So I want to be the musician as opposed to trying to divide my time up between playing and going into the screen thing. But, there's some people that don't have a problem with that because you don't miss what you don't know. These young people, they never really worked with, our old school mixing board and the knobs and all that. Everything is digital. And then, the fact that they hyped it as 24-bit and you don't hear any tape hiss. With a good analog system, you don't hear any tape hiss. You get that Dolby kicking in and it minimized that. And then when you got so much stuff going on in the mix, you can't hear the hum anyway. So that argument is just kind of, it's not argument. So then I went out and bought a mixer. And I'm going to put the mix up on the screen. It's the Euro something. And it had at least 8, sliders, knobs. I'm like, okay, I can deal with 8 for the time being. But I wish, well, actually I have it over there, but it's too big and clunky to bring it over here. But the problem that I had with that out of the gate is with my 688, I had my headphone jacks right kind of up under the mixer, So the cord went up here, which made sense. And then they gave you 2, because of course when you're working with perhaps at least another person. If you're engineering the vocals, the vocalist need to hear the headphones or hear what's going on, and the engineer needs to hear it too. So it makes sense to have 2. And still with this new one, just 1. And then it's physically up on the top of the board. So now you got all this string cord hanging and draping over the mixer. So it just makes no sense, the stuff that they put together now. And that's one reason why, I'm just going back old school. I'm like, I thought I was going to try to just upgrade and do, work with the new technology. Keep it, because it's too much work. It's overpriced, and they don't really put a lot of common sense into when they're doing this. Because again, with my EPS keyboard, I'll probably put a picture of that up there. That thing is just extremely user-friendly. I mean, from every point, it has an 8-track sequencer, easy to work with. Well, I'm not gonna really get into the whole technical thing, but the point I'm trying to make is, hold on to your old gear, because the new stuff is junk. It's just. But on that note, I'm gonna say something that's positive. The majority of the time when I do my drum programs, and back in the day, I was a heck of a drum programmer. I mean, people all over the city, when I lived in Chicago back in the day, they heard about me and said, hey man, I want you to hook me up with them drum programs, because I heard some of the stuff that you did and it's just unbelievable. And I'm not really quote unquote a drummer, but I always had good feel and hung around drummers, so I learned from the best. And even to this day, when I was writing drum programs, I would use my Alesis HR16. That is one of the best drum machines I've ever worked with in my entire musical career. Even though the sounds are dated and I don't use those, I just MIDI them up from another current rack mount that have current drum sounds to still write my programs, because you can easily get the feels you want. You can create a song pattern instead of just doing one song over 16 measures of the same drum beat. I don't believe in that. I'm like, I want crescendos, I want crashes, I want stops, I want pauses, just like a real drummer, instead of just a 4-beat or 16 measure drum beat and I'm done. And the Cayenne P60, I've had like 4 of those things, and to me personally, it's just my opinion, they're overrated. They're good for sampling, but as far as the drumming and programming it, I couldn't get what I wanted out of it. And like I said, I'm a heck of a drum programmer, but to each his own. They just got that extra hype because you're able to sample and chop up other people's stuff and put it in the mix. But HR16, I swear by it. And if I had to make a choice as far as what's the best current drum machine, because I've been through them all, but I've tested them. And I ran across this, which is the Akai Professional XR20. this thing is awesome. I mean, it has the current drum sounds that you want to do concurrent things, and then the programmability is pretty decent. You know, I haven't really sat down with it for a long period of time yet because I just got it last week, but I didn't really have a hard time, you know, creating rhythms, you know, because a lot of the drum machines that I've had prior to the HR16, it takes a while, you know, to kind of get that feel and get what you want. You know, you tap in one thing, it gives you something totally different. But, you know, I got to endorse this. This thing is just an awesome piece of machinery. And it's only like $200 now. I think when it was new, it's like $4 something. You know, so, you know, you can get a good deal on these. But I'm going to wrap this video up. You know, basically, the point of the video was the technology that we have today regarding music is not as good to me, and it's just a personal opinion, as good as the old stuff. You know, I like the analog stuff. The digital stuff is too involved when, you know, your focus should be on laying it down as opposed to trying to, you know, engineer and struggle through all these things. Because, again, I'm briefly say this because I could talk about this for hours, literally. My setup used to be like this: a Tascam 688, my Sonic keyboard, and then I had 4 rack mounts, and they were all MIDI'd up to each channel. You know, on channel 1, I'm pulling from the Roland JVA80. Channel 2, I'm pulling from the Korg SR Wave Station. Channel 3, Planet Fat rack mount. And, you know, I can create ghost instruments on my Sonic, you know, so I can pull trigger from these rack mounts. Or I can easily just load in some sounds onto the board and not use the rack mounts. But, you know, the rack mounts had a bigger, fatter sound. And it was easy to kind of MIDI the channels up. Now this stuff now, because I got some new rack mounts, I set the channel. Then as the pattern goes past and start over, it goes into a default, a whole nother sound patch. And I'm like, why is it doing this? You know, it should be just straightforward like the old stuff, instead of you got to figure out why it's defaulting back, you know, because once you set it, it should be set, as opposed to some way you got to go in there and try to figure out how to keep it from going back into default, you know. So that's my rant, and that's my issues with this new stuff. You know, I'm going to actually go back and find me a Tascam 688 and buy it, you know, and keep it, because this thing here, you know, no digital stuff for me. You know, it's too much work, and it's just makes no sense as far as how things are kind of put in there. So on that note, I hope this was helpful to you young folks, or, you know, people that's trying to get, you know, a music little studio production thing going, and the gear that you want to buy that's going to be easier and user-friendly to work with, as opposed to I spend 90% of my time trying to figure out how to do this, and still 90% of your time was spent playing and laying it down, and 10% was spent on the technicalities and just working with it, you know, the technical aspect. That's how it should be. So on that note, I'm signing off. Till next time, take care.